everyone, this month I read the novel Frankly in Love. I will focus on the topics that the book exposes and which I consider relevant. Frankly in Love is a novel that tells us the story of Frankly, which is a Korean American student from California and he is studying for entering the university. Through the story, we can see Frankly falling in love in a couple of times, and he learns from each situation that happens when he falls in love. For example, the honesty with the person you love and the people that is not only your couple, and the ability of recognizing our feelings. Here are the main topics which I decided to talk about, and some of these are topics that are appearing continuously through the book. For example, the racism, which there are tribes that want to keep themselves as pure. An example that we can see of this in the book is when Frankly parents emancipated his sister for being in love with a black boy. Frankly usually feels a lot of anguish because he feels that his situation could happen to him and he finds himself in a dilemma about how to handle this kind of situation. And in fact, this is how the story is developed through the book. We can see also the self-knowledge because frankly, in order to being able of deciding what to do about these kind of dilemmas, he must to know himself and he must recognize the feelings. Being able to recognize the feelings that we develop for other people help us to decide and help us to choose in different manners what to do accordingly of the situation that we are living in that moment. So with these two things said, we also have the family problems. And in this part, I think that it's important to know when to be rebel and know when being rebel is actually making a good change in our lives. And these many troubles that are caused for things like the racism and the lack of self-knowledge cause things like loss of trust in the people we love, the need of to run away from the people that we feel that are controlling us. And at some point in the book, frankly comments to Joy, which is another of the main characters in the story, that he once read that you have to hate your parents in order to live, because otherwise you would stay with them. Here we can see one of the parts of the book that I enjoyed the most, and I feel that making mistakes can happen in many ways and in all possible aspects of our lives, and learning to accept our ignorance in general is an important part of continuing to learn in our lives. So the quote I quote, and I have no idea, I realized, is a big part of who I am. The point is being able to say I have no idea without an apology, with confidence even. Through the story, I learned many things and I felt identified with many others. So, for example, there are, for example, the pressure that our parents sometimes exert when making decisions in our lives, sometimes even when deciding on our partner. It is curious to see how this seems to be a pattern that, although in the book is told it occurs in Korean families, it is something that we can see very closely in Latin America and here, for example, in Merida, even with my parents, maybe. And there are sometimes a lot of prejudice about things like tattoos or skin color and ethnic origin. And although many of these things are true, the book also touches on this part that or the responsibility that we must take in order to willing not to continue with that way of thinking, and also accept that in certain way there are situations that we cannot change about the people who we live, about the people we love, like our parents. But if we cannot change them, we can actually change ourselves and don't do the same things. However, we can learn from how we see our parents, for example, and we can eventually look at ourselves and find the weak points, because maybe we are seeing the weak points of our parents, but we are not seeing the weak points that we have. So this is what I learned, and thank you very much for listening to me.